Okay. Can everybody hear me today? Great. Thank you so much for joining us. Today we are going to talk about platform events and the Salesforce Event Bus and how we're looking to, one, continue to roll out what we rolled out in the summer release with our GA product of platform events, what we are looking to do over the upcoming releases with it, and we're going to have a great demo story from one of our partners. My name is Jay Hurst. I'm a product manager here at Salesforce. Seeing a lot of familiar faces in the crowd, which is good. Hopefully I won't bore you guys with the same things over and over again, although this will be a little bit of a level set on what platform events are. And I do have to give you your forward-looking statement. So if you guys haven't seen this, welcome to your very first Dreamforce event ever and your very first session. But for those of you who have seen it, I'm going to say, everybody repeat with me. Only purchase things based on what is currently generally available today. Salesforce is a publicly traded company, so some of the features that we are talking about are going to be forward-looking and not quite ready for prime time. So if you are looking to make any purchasing decisions, please make those based on what is available today and what is not forward-looking. If you have any questions about what is and what is not forward-looking throughout the presentation, please feel free to talk to me after, and I'll also be trying to tag it out during the presentations. So for the agenda today, pretty straightforward. We'll talk a little bit about what event-driven architecture is, talk about platform events. I have a demonstration with Twitter and platform events. We have BooMe, who will be going through their connector. We'll talk a little bit about the roadmap, a little bit of where to next, and some Q&A. So a lot to pack in the next 38 minutes and 16 seconds. So we'll start off with what is event-driven architecture. We've been kind of playing around with this slide for a little while, but the concept of it is really, there's a lot that goes into building an IT system or any kind of software technology. Your end customers are only going to see the result of your hard work. They're only going to see the app. They really don't care what goes on underneath it, but in reality, there's a lot of pieces underneath it. Salesforce handles a lot of these when you're looking at the cloud computing side. Obviously, the identity, trust and security, maintenance, hardware, all of that is something that we manage, but we also understand that you have to manage this on your own. And the result is that there's a lot of complexity that goes into building your apps and building your experiences. Even though you may just drop your pin and expect the car to come up and you see the car coming on that nice little app, in reality, there's upwards of 30 or 40 systems that need to be queried just to get all of that information. Things like security services, geolocation, user information, billing information. All of these are likely coming from multiple systems because nobody's built that one system that manages everything yet. And what this ends up being is kind of a real gap for what your IT teams can deliver and what your customers are expecting. Because point-to-point integration ends up taking a lot more time and money and effort when you're building these. So if you only have 2 or 3 systems to connect together, it's fairly manageable. You can easily connect them. When you start layering in your 20th or your 30th system and they all need to talk to each other, that becomes very difficult. And this is really where event-driven design comes in, is how do we allow you to begin to decouple that point-to-point spaghetti code and allow you to publish once and subscribe multiple times so that one message can be emitted from one application and yet received by multiple applications at their need. So events is how we really get to this real-time integration, which is what everybody, every time I talk to them, says we need. We need real-time. We need it faster. We need it now. No longer is batching every 5 or 10 minutes acceptable. We need to know right when the customer needs to know. So with real-time, you're able to start layering in that 360-degree view. You know when a customer has moved the pin. Knowing that 5 minutes later wouldn't really help you if you're trying to give them a ride. It also allows you to start augmenting your data. So no longer do you have to expect all data lives in one place. In reality, data is separate across multiple systems. So you can start to make requests throughout the bus and start to augment data. So I can receive an event that contains some information. I can augment it with information that I have, and I can republish another event onto a different stream or onto the same stream. So this is really more of the pattern you want. You want all of these different systems to be able to augment and refine the events at the speed that they need. And then finally, scale is obviously a big concern. Being able to handle 10s and 20 events a day is not very useful when you're doing something like IoT. So how do we allow you to scale upwards? And so with that, we introduced platform events. Now, raise your hand if you've seen any of the platform event stuff before. Okay, so about a third of you, half of you, that's great. So this is going to be a little bit of a repeat. But for everybody that hasn't seen events before, we've really modeled it in the same way that we've modeled the rest of the Salesforce data layer. So just like you can create a new custom object and extend your metadata model, you can create and define a new custom event. It looks the same throughout the UI. You have that same setup screen where you create an event, add custom fields to it, but it is doing some semantically different things underneath. We're actually, when you create that event type, we actually create a channel for that event so you can pub and sub to it. The events are slightly different. You don't actually update events, you only publish or subscribe to them. So you don't have the same CRUD permissions that you would in a data record. And really it gets into this idea of an event is something that happened at a point in time. It's a piece of information that happened that you need other systems to know about. You don't really want to use it as a database record because we have database records for those. But once we begin to layer in that ability to publish or to define your event, you can then publish and subscribe to it. This is where that decoupling happens. So I can publish once, subscribe multiple times. The demo will show this in a great way, but if I send in one event, I can have multiple business processes subscribing to it and doing different things and performing different sets of logics. And finally, heterogeneous payloads are something that we're really focused on. So we are beginning to expand our definition of what events are inside the Salesforce platform. You'll begin to see things like our security events, our org lifecycle notification events, asset token events, things that can represent very discrete pieces of information. But then we'll also get into more general types, like the event monitoring event, which could be information about hundreds of different types of logs. So we kind of get into this idea of business events, security events, change data events, all of which have discrete meaning in and of themselves, but they can be kind of meta events of their specific type. A change data event could represent an account change or it could represent a contact change. Those things can collapse into one event type. So it's kind of an interesting pattern as you start to think about how you can build out event systems. But throughout this journey, what we're finding is that with eventing, we then get real time. We then get our processes and business process the ability to react. We can create bi-directional workflows through that publish and subscription. One app, another app can listen and then resubscribe if needed. So it can begin to do orchestration type flows. We do see integration being much faster because you no longer have to pair your subscribers and your publishers together and lockstep all of your development. I can start to separate them out so that my publisher can change and emit the events that they need and upgrade as they need. But the subscribers don't necessarily have to be updated at the same time. We do this through a fairly complex metadata management system so that you can actually version your events just like you would version a custom object. So what that means is that on version A of your event, it might expect 4 fields. Version B now has 7 fields. With each event that we're sending, we also tag the schema so that you can actually see this event is of this type of schema, and as a subscriber, you'll know whether or not you can actively process it or not. So it gives you a little bit of latitude in how you can code around things. Finally, the reliability of the messages is pretty key. So the way we are managing it, we do not give at least once or at most once delivery guarantees with our stream. Instead, what we give is replayability and durability. So every event that is created is put onto the queue in the order that it was created, so we maintain the time orderedness of the queue, and each event gets its own unique replay ID. When you subscribe to the event stream, you provide us with a replay ID, and we will send you everything that has happened after that. So if your client happens to go down, it can resubscribe, get everything that it potentially missed in that time window. Does mean that your client has to retain state of what the last replay ID it saw, but it ends up being a little bit easier for us to manage at scale when you have hundreds or thousands of subscribers all coming in at different points. Now, when I'm talking about subscribing, we really have 2 different mechanisms of subscription. You have a subscription from off of the Salesforce platform and a subscription from on the Salesforce platform. And this is where we really start to enable both our low-code and our professional developers. So with the external subscription, this is going to be through our traditional streaming API. We've done a lot of work to make sure that the API remains consistent, whether you're using streaming API or platform events or the upcoming change data capture. They're all using that same API protocol, just different topics that you subscribe to. When you're on platform, though, we allow you to subscribe in a couple of different ways. The first way is through Apex. You can set up a trigger on your event type, just like you would set up a trigger on the custom object. So every time an event is created, we'll actually process that trigger and kick you into the Apex logic. But with the Winter 17 release, we also introduced subscription through Process Builder. So now for our low-code developers, you can actually start a process from an event. So when an event happens, your process will kick off, and then you can continue through your process flow. Publishing is in the same fashion. We have the external and internal publishers. External through our public API. So this is, you create or publish an event in the same way you would create a custom or standard record. Very, very straightforward in the API. Through Apex, we exposed a new eventBus.publish function. So if you need to publish, you do that. I do want to call out that the way we run in Apex is as a separate asynchronous transaction, so it is outside of your main transaction. So you do have to keep that in mind when you're building with Apex, that if you rolled back your Apex transaction, the event could have still fired and could still be processed. So you have to build that into your logic. And finally, you can also publish through the process builder. So you can create it just like you could any other Salesforce record. And so as we look forward, kind of everything I've just talked about, that's what we have today. That's what GA'd with the summer release. That's what is included with every enterprise edition and above. Feel free, go play, have fun. But we are looking forward to how do we allow additional scale. So our current GA product is actually built as a queue on top of our Oracle systems. Our future vision is to layer in additional queuing technologies. The first one we're using is Kafka. And we're setting this up as what we call high volume events. So high volume events is in pilot with this release. If you're interested, please let me know, or your account reps know. But the idea there is the development model and programming model that you'll have is going to remain the same between the two. The difference really becomes in the economy of scale that you need. With standard volume events, or those that are on Oracle, we really are going to cap out at around 1 to 3 million a day, depending on how big and the usage pattern of your events. With high volume events, we're looking to scale that to the tens and hundreds of millions. So it's definitely meant for the IoT-like scale. And with all of that, what we end up with is a variety of use cases. So the first one is, how many of you have actually seen the IoT Explorer in action? A few of you. I definitely recommend everybody else check it out. They have great demos down in the campground. But IoT Explorer was going through, and the IoT Enterprise solution as well, has gone through a really interesting journey where if you listen to the keynote yesterday, Parker had said, customers had asked us to build it all in the same system. And we've done that. IoT Explorer actually is built natively in platform. It rides on top of platform events. So everything it's doing is through platform events, through the same architecture. And the IoT Enterprise solution that we're building out right now also is built using platform events in slightly different systems using Kafka. So this is really how we are envisioning connecting our systems together. All of the pain points that you guys may be hitting around how do I connect Marketing Cloud and Salesforce Cloud together? How do I connect service and commerce together? Part of our go-forward strategy to tie these together is through events. It's through our event bus, and that's the model that we're driving for. So I'm telling you this because this is really what we feel is the right way to approach some of these problems of how do I get real-timeness, how do I connect systems together, and ultimately, how do we make a better ecosystem for customers to use? So as we build it internally, we want to make sure we're exposing it externally to you as well, so we're all using that same subsystem. Okay. We're all level set. We all understand events. We're happy. All right, so we're going to go through a demo. Hopefully the demo works. It was breaking a little earlier, so we'll roll the dice. But the idea that we have here is really we need to start integrating our social channels together. So we have Andrea, she's our fearless admin. Her goal is to really improve her customer's experience. This is probably what most of you as business admins and developers, this is your goal as well. And what she has been told is, hey, we have Twitter out there, people are tweeting about us, we need to integrate this inside our Salesforce application. So Andrea starts talking to her different stakeholders, and the first one she talks to is Mike. Mike is our marketing guru. You know, he that instant feedback from Twitter. But the marketing team has begun to actually use Slack as their preferred channel because it has the ability to connect multiple applications together, including Twitter. So he lives in Slack, and he really needs to make sure that we're keeping brand identity consistent, but he can react at the point of need. We also have Samantha. She's our customer service champion. She lives inside of Salesforce Service Cloud. Her main concern is making sure she can respond to customers as fast as possible. She needs real-time case management, and she needs to be able to react to those cases as they come on from Twitter. Finally, we have Steve. Steve is our sales leader. He's focused on selling. He wants to know when his customers are having issues. He wants to be notified when somebody has a sales request. He lives in the Sales Cloud, and he's really focused on Chatter as his main communication points. So, enter platform events. Like I said, hopefully my demo will work. What we have is we have a simple area here. Let's go ahead and look for platform events inside the setup tree. We'll see that I have a few defined platform events here. One of them is the tweet event. So this is a very simple event that Amy has defined. We'll see it looks very similar to a custom object. Biggest call out here is the API name. You'll see it's __E for event. That is our suffix that indicates custom event types on the system. So anything that says E, you'll know is an event. We'll also see that this event type is of standard volume. So this is an Oracle-backed event. This is what is GA'd today. We have a number of standard fields, created by, created date, the replay ID that I mentioned earlier. And then we have a few custom fields that are pretty straightforward. What is the body of the tweet? What is the URL deep linking to the tweet? And what is the username of the person that sent that tweet? Fairly straightforward. We have now a shell of what a tweet is that can exist on Salesforce as an event. What we want to do now is we want to be able to subscribe to Twitter and actually publish an event when something happens. So I have an application. I'm not going to dive into the code on it. Trust me, it's an application. At the top, we see it's already logged in. What it's doing is it's listening on Twitter. It has a subscription to the Twitter Firehose looking for a specific hashtag. The hashtag is PESFDC. Anytime it finds one of those, it simply creates a tweet event from that with the username, the body, and the deep link URL. The second bottom half is a Slack integration that I have. What this integration we can see is it is subscribed to the tweet __E event right here. And it's just listening to anything that's published onto that channel. When it finds one, what it does is it simply republishes it into a Slack channel that we have. And we can show you my Slack channel. You can see I have a couple of tests there already. Hopefully the demo works. So what I'm going to do is I am going to open Twitter. Going to create a new PESFDC. Hello, DF17. Okay, so now once I tweet, what we should see is we should see a change on the top that says received a tweet from Extra Idea, and we should see a successful subscription on the bottom. So I've just published it. There's the tweet, and we see it received the tweet. Now what we can see is I'm simply publishing out the tweet details on the top. So this is what was actually published. PESFDC, hello, DF17, who the user was, the tweet URL, the ID of that record that was created, and we see that it received the tweet from Extra Idea on that second application. If I look at this tweet to Slack, we see that actually did go through. So now anytime our marketing guru is sitting in Slack, somebody tweets that specific hashtag, it's going to immediately flow it from Twitter through platform events into Slack, which is great. That's a really good thing. However, I'm sure you guys are already aware if you use Slack, there's already a Twitter integration. So why would I want to do this through platform events? It's a great question. Maybe you wouldn't. If I only needed to go Twitter to Slack, I probably wouldn't do this. It's just a round trip that I don't need. However, if you remember, we're also hooking up Samantha, our service rep, and Mike, our sales rep. We want to make sure that they're integrated as well. So what we have, if we pop back into our organization, we'll see that I have an actual trigger running on this tweet as well, a log service issue trigger. Now, I'm not going to get too much into the code here, and I don't want you guys to find out that I didn't bulkify it correctly, so we won't go too much into it. But all we're doing here is for every tweet that comes in, what I do is I look for another hashtag as well. Remember that first Twitter app is only looking for the PESFDC hashtag so it can publish the event. Now the trigger is actually looking for an additional hashtag of log case. What it's doing is it's going to essentially, if I hashtag PESFDC and hashtag log case, it's going to hit this Apex trigger, and it's actually going to create a case. What it's going to do to create the case is it's going to take that username field that is in the tweet, it's going to look up my contact who has the same username, and it's going to create a case against that contact. So if I go ahead and try and tweet again, log case. Okay, so now, whoop, did that go through right? Okay, so I logged a log case, please help. If we go now into my accounts, or actually contacts, I believe I'm Howard Jones. Oh, it's not going to work. There we go. This is not going to work because I'm using a different, but it's going to show you something similar. I changed the username, and I forgot I changed the username, so it's using a different one here. So we can try it one more time. Let's change Howard Jones to actually my handle. And that may be why everything was breaking earlier. Okay, let's try help 2. See, help 2 comes in, Howard Jones. Let's go ahead and refresh the page and look at Howard's related, and hopefully that worked on the fly. And we see this new one, help 2. So essentially, it's just looking for, using Apex to do some programmatic logic, looking for that extra tweet, or that extra hashtag, and then logging the case. So again, this would be one reason why you potentially would want to flow this into from Slack to, or from Twitter to Salesforce to Slack, because I can also go Twitter to Salesforce to Service Cloud on that same stream. I didn't have to publish 2 tweets, just one tweet event, and it can do different logic. Now, if you remember, we had one more use case. We had the sales use case, which was very similar to this service use case here, except inside of Process Builder, we want to be able to process events as well. We'll see I have a process here called log sales tweet. This log sales tweet we'll see is actually started off through a tweet/contact. So you can actually initiate a process builder through a platform event. In this case, it's my tweet event. And then you want to tie it with an actual Salesforce object. So that's how Process Builder envisions this working, is I'm going to have an event tied with an object. In this case, it's the contact. First thing I do is I verify that the platform event that came in has a different hashtag of log sales. If, remember, I have the log case, I have log sales. If it does have a log sales, then I want to do a simple alerting of my contact owner that there was a tweet. Tell them that, hey, somebody tweeted. You might want to go out and ask them. So if we go ahead and do our final tweet, PESFDC, log sales, I want to buy. Whoop, I want a butt, I guess. We'll see that it comes into, I did not type it right. Somebody found out my hashtag after I said it multiple times. Please don't put anything inappropriate up there. Okay, so there we go. So we got our log sales. Now if we go back into Howard Jones, we should see a new post from Amy admin saying that Howard Jones just logged a sales request on Twitter. Please reach out to them. So that was 3 use cases through 1 event type. And this is why we really feel you may want to start looking at not coupling things directly. That Twitter to Slack app is really great. It works perfectly. But then if you wanted to build a Twitter to sales app, now you're building a second one. If you want a Twitter to service, you have to build a third one, where with eventing, we can begin to decouple these things together. A little bit of a contrived example, but I think you can start to imagine how when you're connecting your systems together, especially those systems that need the same information and need to react differently to the same information, events really start to play a valuable role. So with that, we're going to jump over to Saul. Saul or Solomon? Saul. So I have been working with Dell BooMe for a number of months now. They've been one of the great partners that have really helped us build out this community of our middleware vendors to allow you to subscribe to platform events along with all of the other API transformation layer that they can provide to Salesforce in general. So with that,
great, thanks.
Take away, Saul.
All right, folks, can you hear me? Is that a yes? I hope so. Hi, folks. My name is Saul Waters. I'm from Dell BooMe. And really, the reason I'm here is to talk a little bit and also to show you how with BooMe we extend that classic Salesforce clicks, not code concept to allow you to integrate Salesforce with any external system. So what I've done is put together a pretty simple demo, and my goal is to really mirror what Jay's done up here. One note about that is that I have really tried to build a very simplistic use case to show you how easy it can be to work with BooMe. It's a little unrealistic in that simplicity. Now, downstairs in the IoT area, we do have IoT Explorer connected to BooMe through platform events. So down there, you can actually see a much more sophisticated use case in action as well. If I can. OK, so very quickly, what is BooMe? Probably simplistically, you could just think about BooMe as being an on-demand integration service. And by the way, that's very much like thinking of Salesforce as an on-demand CRM service. So much like Salesforce, we're cloud native, born in the cloud native architecture. So we have a multi-capability platform that's delivered in a single instance, multi-tenant architecture. True cloud, meaning things like new updates are pushed out directly to you. All of our customers are working on the same update, et cetera. And as I mentioned, this is, again, a clicks, not code capability. So our goal is to provide you a low-code stack where you can do everything that you need to do in the integration space without writing code. Now, again, I mentioned that we're similar to thinking of Salesforce as an on-demand CRM. So what I mean there is that, yes, we're an integration service, but what we're going to find out is that in order to build an enterprise caliber integration, we're going to have to do a lot of similar things in that space. So in my simple use case, I've also had to build a user interface, I've had to create APIs, and I've had to do system-to-system integration. So again, we provide a multi-capability stack that allows you to do all of that without writing code. OK, very quickly, let's talk about connectivity. So I am now starting to see some customers that have 100% cloud-based architecture. It's starting to happen, but it's still fairly rare. So yes, we're a SaaS integration service, and as you'd expect, that means that we can connect to any SaaS service quite easily. But equally importantly, the vast majority of our customers have some kind of an on-premise resource, whether that's literally something like an SAP instance running behind the firewall, or whether it's resources running in a VPC. We have a patented connectivity method to allow us to connect to those on-premise resources, and to do that without making any kind of configuration changes, without punching holes in the firewall, without involving the network team, et cetera. So just like we're low code, we can make those on-premise connections very easily. And then equally importantly, perfect, especially as we move into the enterprise space, we see that the vast majority of our customers already have some kind of an integration platform, maybe TIBCO, maybe Oracle Fusion. And so we also have the ability to augment those legacy, if you will, integration systems. We can speak directly to, say, a TIBCO, to an Oracle Fusion, and we can take on those newer cloud use cases while leaving the existing system in place, working away happily. OK, so we'll take a look again at a fairly simple demo. And here's a setup. So we're going to start off inside of Service Cloud, where we have a team that, of course, is working cases and ideally is going to spend their day working inside of Service Cloud. But what we see is that there are various events that will push them outside of the Salesforce arena. So for instance, if Susie Support is working a case and determines that there's an application defect, she's going to need to go into Jira to log an issue so the dev team can follow up. Similarly, if we need the finance team to follow up on a finance issue, we need to create a contact inside of NetSuite. And if we want an AE to follow up on a lead, well, we have to go create that lead. So what we want to do is to create a system that keeps our workers inside of Service Cloud and that gives them seamless accessibility to those external systems. So we'll do a little machine swap here, and we'll see what this is going to look like. All right, so we'll start out in Service Cloud. And the first thing that I've done, as I mentioned, is I've created a simple UI. Now, in this case, you can see it's natively embedded inside of the case. This can also run externally. It can be mobily accessible. So if I need to quickly log an issue, I can always pull out my phone and do exactly that. And it's also dynamic. So here, again, I may need to create a contact. And if I do so, it'll give me fields that are prompting for my contact information. And likewise, if I want to log a bug, it'll do the same. It's going to give me a different set of fields that's going to prompt me with different descriptions. Now, what I'm doing is that I've created a fairly generic event under the covers. I want a decoupled architecture, and the reason for that is that I might find that this is a successful implementation, and I might actually have additional systems that I want to add on to the other end. And so I'll show you how I've got the ability to use that same event to go out and connect to additional systems as well. So first, let's see if this is working. I've gone ahead and queued up a few of these. I've got a contact here named Platform Events. We can see that we are getting a bidirectional feedback. In this case, I'm taking, again, a fairly simplistic measure, and I'm just sending back the ID of the event that was created, but we can see that was successful. And likewise, here I'll log a bug that's also called Platform Events. So we'll send those across, and we should, if we refresh our screens here, see that there's a new contact inside of NetSuite. I'll kick off the Jira. There we go. So we have a Platform Events contact that's come through. And likewise, if we go to Jira and refresh our screen, we should also see that a Platform Events issue was created. I guess I call it Salesforce Events Bus, but we can see that issue did indeed come across to our external system. So again, we've now got Salesforce talking to these external systems. And again, as you can see, in this case, these are two SaaS systems, but if I needed to connect to Infor or SAP, it's going to be a very similar architecture and a very similar method to do that. So very quickly, if I drill into this, first of all, the interface that we saw, it's all declarative. So I've built this through drag and drop of a few different shapes. I've created a UI. I'm passing the information that I gather to a service that I created, and I'm sending a message back to the user. We saw that event that came back and told us exactly what we were looking at. Under the covers, the heart and soul of this thing is the integration capability here. So if I drill into this very quickly, I've created an event, which Jay showed you his version of that. Once I've done that in Salesforce, I just need to import that into BooMe. It's literally a couple of clicks. And what you'll see is that we saw the Salesforce view of this earlier. Here we're seeing what it looks like inside of BooMe, where I can drill down and I can see the standard and the custom fields that I've created for my event. So I have the three fields, service, description, and details, and I can leverage those any way that I want. I'm already using the service field in that, depending on which I choose, for instance, if I choose to create an issue, I'm going to insert the string Jira into that field. And I can then route based on that. So I simply add a route step. I'm pointing at that particular element, so I'm looking at the service element, and then I just give it the route values. And here's where I can add in easily another service. So if I want to send this to SAP, I can add that to my UI. I can add a leg here that's going to route to SAP, and I'll be able to integrate to that service. And then wiring the systems together, again, it's going to be quite easy. So I've got a map. In the map, I'm taking apart the event that we saw, and I'm simply doing field-to-field mapping here to push this, in my case, to my NetSuite contact. Now, I've already overloaded myself, though. So in this case, I didn't have enough fields to get a first name and a last name field. So the name contains a first space last. And of course, what we have here is a library of graphical functions that I can use. In this case, I've simply chosen a string split so that I can split that full name apart into a first and a last name. I can send that out to my destination fields, and I've got a working integration going from Salesforce out to NetSuite. So very brief demonstration, but again, what we're seeing is that without writing a line of code, I'm able to take the platform event mechanism and I'm able to use that to seamlessly integrate with external systems. Again, can be really any system under the sun. We'll provide a nice capability for you for creating those integrations. Lastly, we can see that we do have a real-time dashboard as well. So I can see exactly what's going on under the covers in the system. I can see the processes that are creating the events, the processes that are listening for the events, and then I can drill down on those and I can actually see what's occurring at each step along the way. So that's the time that I've got, but I wanted to show you a little bit of BooMe here. And Jay, back to you.
Great. Thank you so much, Saul. Yeah, no, you can clap. So with that, we're almost out of time. I do want to give a little bit of a highlight to our roadmap. So with the winter release, where we're at right now, we have that high volume events in pilot. If you do have use cases where you think you need millions of events a day, definitely let me know. I'm trying to get 10 to 12 customers that can give good feedback on what's working, what's not working. We have that process flow subscriber. You'll start to see standard platform events pop up in our system, things like the org lifecycle notification event. If you've done anything with the Scratch orgs, those are all driven by platform events. We also have a pilot for event monitoring. So we're looking to really drive event monitoring down into a real-time notification and not just a daily look at what happened. In the spring release, looking at taking high volume events to beta, event monitoring as beta, and eventing as a service for Salesforce apps. So we're really looking to figure out how do we extend our Salesforce event bus internally so that we can have our internal teams kind of start to really leverage and bang against it so that we can then extend it out to you. Towards the summer, looking to GA, high volume, really looking at tweaking our administration functions, giving you more control over pausing Apex triggers, process flow subscribers, drilling into who's subscribed and where. Apex testing enhancement, we have gotten feedback on some of the changes we'd like to make there. And also really start to look at topic filtering. How do we allow you to actually pre-filter your subscription so you only receive the events that are important? In Saul's case, maybe you only want to receive those events that are to Jira on your Jira subscriber. Where to next? We have a platform events developer guide. We have a great blog post done by one of our SEs. We have a chatter group that I'm fairly active on, so please feel free to reach out there. And we have 2 trailheads that I encourage you to take, both a project and a module. Finally, just like Dell BooMe, we have been working with other partners as well. The integration middleware community is definitely something that we want to engender. All of these wonderful partners have booths downstairs and in the Cloud Expo. I definitely recommend that you go there, either to Dell BooMe's booth to get a little bit more of a walkthrough of what Saul showed today, go to Jitterbit, go to the IBM booth, the Workato booth. We have a number there. And with that, a few minutes left. We have a Q&A. If you do have any questions, please jump up to the mic so everybody can hear you on the recording. And if not, I definitely want to thank you guys for spending a little bit of time with us today, and I hope your Dreamforce is continually fabulous. Thank you.
You mentioned that the replay has to, once and only once delivery is not guaranteed using platform events, but if you're using Apex triggers, do you have to manage the replayness, or you get guaranteed once and only once?
So with Apex triggers, you get a single time subscribe. You don't have to manage it. We're always on the tip of the queue. Yeah.
Great. So for the event monitoring, is that going to be the same stuff that, the same kinds of events that would be tracked in the setup audit trail? Is that the kind of? So
it's actually the event monitoring product that's offered as part of Shield, where you can actually get a list of what actions were taken in your org through log lines. We're just looking to, rather than have that as an API call where you pull the last day of activity, you actually get notified as something happens.
So log in, log out is free, but then subscribe to Shield if you want.
I'm not sure what their pricing model is on the events, but it would be something similar to that, yes.
So you mentioned we can publish through Apex Process Builder APIs. What about email? So if we set up like an inbound handler and then put it through there to Apex, yes?
So your email handler would be in Apex, and then you could just turn around and subscribe out, absolutely.
I'm very new to platform events, but my question is that using the example that you gave at the beginning, where you created that the Twitter event, why couldn't you just create a custom object with those 3 fields, and then create a app with the streaming API, and then subscribe to that event? And anytime it makes those changes, then you publish to Slack, and then you create a trigger on that event, or I'm sorry, that custom object, to then write to your sales guy and your customer service.
Absolutely, you definitely could. And this is actually what we saw a lot of customers doing. But one of the goals with platform events was really to give you the right tool to do what you're trying to do.
Right.
When you're talking about decoupling a subscription like that, where you're using a custom object as an event, it gives you some controls. You get some additional controls perhaps, but it's really not the right tool. You're using a database record to drive eventing. You can do it, you can get away with it, but then at certain times you have to manage deletion and reaping of those, where that's what the platform event stream will help you handle. So definitely, there's multiple ways to skin the cat here. This is just a kind of a standard way that we want to give you out of the box.
Cool. And then I had a question for this gentleman
Yeah.
about the when you were doing your transform for the first and last name.
Sure.
Is it possible that you could write your own business logic and then add it as a list of functions that you created yourself? You did actually create code to do some sort of transform that would be in that list.
Absolutely. So we are a low-code stack, and we provide a variety of entry points to be able to write code. And absolutely, you can create business transformations in JavaScript and Groovy and Java. You can run those as well.
C#?
C#,
Java?
not so much.
Okay.
All right, I think we have time for one more question, and then we're going to get kicked out.
It's going to be a good one. When a transaction, an event is processed through the triggers, which is the user which is executing?
So everything's run as automated process.
Okay, it's a complete separate transaction from the regular transaction, or it's
Yes, it runs in its own asynchronous transaction.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, I have another question for you later.
All right, wait. Anybody other have questions? We can meet outside, but we are getting a quick shuffle of the room. So thank you so much. Appreciate your time.